Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. Today I'm talking about this new re-recording that Roger Waters is doing of the classic album, one of my favorite albums of all time. Actually, it is my favorite album of all time, The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. There's a bunch of links down below. Make sure you go check those out. There's links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music weekly playlist that we put together, and also the Patreon page. So make sure you go check all that out. Of course, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me the old thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. So if you guys have been watching the channel for a while, you know I'm a huge Pink Floyd fan, a huge fan of The Dark Side of the Moon. And so I think it was back in February, early part of February, Roger Waters announced that over the several months prior to that, he had been slowly re-recording the tracks from The Dark Side of the Moon. And it's not that he's just re-recording these. He's kind of reimagining some of these tracks, at least from some of the stuff that he's kind of leaked out about it. So he did say that he added a bass solo to Us and Them, which Us and Them is probably my favorite track off of that album. Just a great track. He also added his words over the instrumental track On the Run, which I guess it's okay because a lot of people have, I guess On the Run is where the album kind of loses a lot of people because there's a lot of repetitiveness to it. And I guess it is, if there is a skippable track on The Dark Side of the Moon, it's probably that one. So I guess it's, I want to see what he says over that track because you guys know, Roger Waters is, not shy about throwing his political beliefs out there and, a lot of other stuff. And, I agree with some of the stuff he says. I definitely don't agree with everything he says, though. I think some of the stuff he says is just kind of out there. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does with that track. And I also saw that the track Money, which is, it was a huge hit off of that album, is going to be a country tinged track. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does with that also. So when he announced last year that he had re-recorded one of my favorite tracks from Pink Floyd, Comfortably Numb, for his This Is Not a Drill tour, I was kind of leery about it. I didn't really know what to expect. And I actually went and saw him live on that tour, and I was really kind of blown away by that track. Now, granted, it is not better than the original version, but I think it's good enough. I think it's, I like what he did with it. It was more of a stripped down, kind of simple version. And I'm assuming that's what he's going to do with The Dark Side of the Moon also. So I'll at least kind of hold off and kind of wait until I listen to it before I make a judgment on it, because I really don't know. It actually might be good. There's no way it's going to be better than the original. And Roger knows that. He's said that he wants to kind of make it more clear, I guess, what his intent on the album was. The thing I can't get behind is him making it sound like, The Dark Side of the Moon was just Roger Waters, because it was not. The rest of the band, at least at that time in '73, was a very collaborative effort. I've long said that Richard Wright was kind of the heartbeat of that band, and he had a lot of input on that album. David Gilmour had a lot of input on that album also. Nick Mason had a lot of input. So it wasn't just Roger Waters. So over the last 2 months, ever since the announcement came out, I think he did release part of the Us and Them track, which I've held off on listening to it because I want to hear the entire work. But I've seen a lot of Pink Floyd fans almost beside themselves that he would ever actually try to re-record this album. And I think a lot of people think that he's trying to put it out as a better version. It's kind of a way 50 years later to maybe put out a different side of that album. Like I said before, I'm interested in checking it out. I definitely will buy a copy of it, when it's released. And I think aside of the music and the message that Roger Waters thinks has gotten lost over the last 50 years, I think this is really just another way of Roger Waters kind of throw a dig at David Gilmour, which it's another episode in the 40-year-long feud between these two grumpy old children, as I've long called them. They're both 70-year-old children basically at this point, and I just don't get it. I know they can't get along, but kind of keep this feud private. And, there's no reason to kind of make these things public. I know just recently David Gilmour's wife went on Twitter and said a whole bunch of stuff about Roger Waters, and Roger Waters retaliated, and David Gilmour retweeted what his wife had said, and it was just this big long saga, which I think is kind of dumb, and it hurts Pink Floyd. It hurts the legacy of Pink Floyd. And, I think without that, I don't think Roger Waters would even be doing this. But I know this is all kind of together with the new studio album that Roger Waters has been working on over the last year or so also. So, it's not like he's just doing this to record and release something. He is also working on a studio album with it. And if you would have told me a couple years ago that someone was going to be re-recording The Dark Side of the Moon, I would have told you absolutely not. There's no way anyone could ever redo what they did on that album. But after listening to the company, his new version of Comfortably Numb, and listening to that kind of stripped down version where he's not trying to recreate it. He's just kind of reimagining what he did in that song. So, with that, I'm going to hold off and making a judgment until I can listen to this new version of The Dark Side of the Moon. I think last time I saw, Roger Waters had said that they were in the finishing processes or putting the last touches on the mix. So who knows if and when we'll ever see this thing. Hopefully we will, though, because like I said, I'm interested. I'm interested in checking it out, even though I know that it's not going to be anywhere close to the original. And with that being said, I'm not a fan really at all of bands re-recording their music. And there's a bunch of bands that have done it over the years, and a bunch of my favorite bands have done it. And none of them have worked. I think the only re-recordings that have worked were the Taylor Swift releases that came out. And I think that's because, with her being, a little bit older, I think her voice and her vocals actually matched the music a little bit better. But she did a really good job with those. Off the top of my head, I can't think of another band or musician that has re-recorded their music and had it be really good. I don't know. He might put this thing out. It might be a utter piece of garbage. But let me know what you guys think. Drop me a comment down below. Are you guys interested in checking out this re-recording of The Dark Side of the Moon? Because I am. I'll at least listen to it. I'll probably buy a copy of it if it's available on physical form, unless it's in typical Pink Floyd fashion, $150 or so for this album. I'll at least check it out. And, maybe I'll do a video on it once it's released and actually give you a really good take on it after I've sat down and listened to it a couple of times. But I want to know what you guys think. Is this something you're looking forward to? Is this a bad idea? Because I can see both arguments for that. But let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me the old thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. And that's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.